Yes, I can hear you. How are you?
Oh,
Okay.
good. Thank you for picking me. So I suppose my question kind of follows on from what Inez was mentioning. I know you mentioned about aura, but why isn't it equal? Why do women have to cover their hair but not men equally? Do you know?
Yes, because men and women are not the same. And attraction between men and women is not the same. Like how you are attracted to a man and how a man is attracted to you is not the same. Men are very visual. Men all they need to do is just to see the woman. That's enough. For women, a lot of it is intellectual, psychological. They need to first get to know the person. They need to first build that suspense, etc. How we are generally, even the certain body parts that we have is not the same. Women have certain body parts in a way that men don't have. Men are attracted to these body parts is not the same way when it comes to women. We're not the same. So the reason why they're not the same commandments to cover is because men and women are different and they're attracted to each other different. Like attraction is not symmetrical. It's not the same for both genders. So it wouldn't make sense to command both genders to cover the same thing.
Okay. Thank you. And then another question, kind of in a similar category, is about the witness of two women, kind of, where it says like, is not the evidence of two women equal to the witness of one man? And then the answer is, this is the deficiency in her intelligence. So just the question about that, but I'm sure that's a common question.
Yeah. So the testimony, are you talking about testimony of men and women? Testimony usually Islamically is an obligation. It's a responsibility. It's an obligation. It's a responsibility. So that is more Allah easing these responsibilities upon women, because in Islam, if you make false testimony, for example, you get lashed. Testimony in an Islamic system is not, something which everyone wants to do or something. Now, when it comes to the testimony of one man being equal to two women, it's not always the case. It depends on what is the thing that you're asking testimony for. So Allah would mention, for example, when it comes to debt and when it comes to these social, financial dealings, a testimony of one man being equal to two women. But for instances, you'll find the hadith and narration of the Prophet ﷺ where he took a testimony of one woman over a man. And that woman at that time, she was a black slave. So in that society, taking a testimony of a black slave woman over a man who's an Arab, who is free, was something that is not known before. But the Prophet took her testimony over the testimony of that man. And she was one woman. Because that was something that she is more familiar with. Meaning the things that, for example, females know more than men. Things to do with pregnancy, stuff like that. Testimony is relation to that. So it is not always the case in which it is the testimony of one man equal to two women. It is certain situations and certain scenarios where you'll have this is the case. So because generally when it comes to hudud, like punitive laws and financial dealings, because in an Islamic environment and society, men are more experts in those fields. They are the ones who will deal with finances regularly. They are the ones who will be less reliant on emotions when it comes to punishments, when it comes to punishing someone or applying a punitive law on them. So then when it comes to, when testimony is put there, it's not put equally when it comes to men and women. But as I said, there are situations you will see even a testimony of a woman is taken over testimony of a man. It's not a situation that happens in every single case, essentially.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Thank you for answering that. I suppose the answer to that, though, this is the deficiency in her intelligence. I suppose that part of the reply is kind of what I'm...
Sure. Yeah. I don't necessarily like that translation.
Okay.
Because the term can be reduction, and reduction can refer to reduction of responsibility upon her, obligations that is upon her, rather than deficiency, to say, because Allah uses the same term, al-arda nanqusuha min atrafiha, the earth, that we reduce it from its parts, for instance. So it uses the term naqs there as reduction, not necessarily a deficiency. I don't necessarily agree that this is the best proper translation of the narration, but the description is what I've given you. It's not an insulting thing. If testimony itself is an obligation, it's something which most people will be wary from doing rather than be hurrying into doing. So it is more Allah lifting the obligations from the woman rather than him or us as Muslims or anyone like insulting the woman in a way.
Yeah. Okay, I guess that answers it then. If it's maybe not the best, most accurate translation, I suppose. And then another thing, kind of, I saw this verse that said, "Never will succeed such a nation as makes a woman as their ruler." And I was wondering what your view on that is.
I accept that narration the way it is. But that narration, it came in a context, but generally, we would take it the way it is represented. So that narration came in a context of the Persians specifically having a woman as the ruler of their nation. Now, there are some scholars who would say this narration refers to that specific event, in which, as the Prophet said, the nation did not succeed. That woman was not successful for that nation. But how do we understand the hadith is the question. We understand the hadith that just, for instance, there are exceptions to the rules. There are exceptions to this rule. But generally, that's not who we would put as a leader. So the leader of the Muslim is a man. If someone will put, when we say the leader, we're talking about the highest leader of the Muslims, the Imam al-Mu'mineen, has to be a man, cannot be a woman. And have there been good female rulers throughout history? There are exceptions. Yes, even the Quran mentions one. The Quran mentions Bilqis, for example. The Quran mentions at the time of Solomon. And Allah praises her as a ruler. He praises her intelligence. He praises her as a ruler. And she was a woman. So you can have exceptions to the case. But still, did she just succeed without the help of any men? No, that was not the case. She had advisors that are men. She had men fighting in her armies. She had so absolute success. This is another way to look at the narration some scholars would use. Absolute success will never come by a woman being the leader. Now, when we talk about leadership, anyways, what are the qualities that are necessary in a leader? Now, generally, men in general, and maybe you may agree to that. I'm not sure if you would or not. But men in general are not going to be subdued by a female. That's how their nature is. They are not going to be submissive and subdued by a woman. That is the case when it comes to most women, generally. Of course, I'm not talking about some freaks in the West that like all of these freaky, crazy stuff. I'm not talking about these people. These are not the general population of men. I'm talking about actual real men who, go to jobs, work 9 to 5 and go to construction and build societies. I'm talking about these men. They're not going to accept a woman as their leader. That is normally and generally the case. They will need someone, a man like them, to subdue them, to make them submissive to him when it comes to obviously leadership. Also, a woman naturally goes through a menstrual period. Her psychology and her emotions, how she is as a being, is completely different from a man. A man doesn't go through a monthly cycle, and it does not affect his hormones and decision-making and his reliance on emotions as it does with a woman. And that can be a huge influence when someone is a leader. You need to be at all times in the right mind and state when you're ruling a people or individuals. You cannot have something like that influencing your decisions. So we would take the narration the way it is, because Islamically, that's the Islamic position, is that a woman cannot be the leader of the whole nation. That's not something that is allowed. That doesn't mean, and this is very important, because a lot of people operate from a feministic point of view. What do I mean by feministic point of view? Do you mean if a man can do something, then by necessity a woman should also be allowed to do it? And that reflects the question you asked at the beginning: if a man covers, a woman covers. There's a very difference between equality and equity. If two people are different, you don't treat them the same way. That's equality, but it's not equity. Like if you are a woman and there's another woman, she has 4 children, you have 3. I cannot give you the same amount of money. That's equality, but she has more financial burden. I should give her more. That's justice. That's equity. Now, dealing with men and women, as just because a man does something, has a role in society, and a woman cannot do that role or has a different role in society, that does not mean now, therefore, that one is better than the other, or that we are insulting the other by not allowing them to do that thing, which doesn't befit them. I think the insult is to put someone in a position in which it does not reflect their needs and desires and capacity. I think that is the insult that you would have towards someone. So Allah, the Creator, created men and women. He knows what is the best function for men and what is the best function for women, and what is the best roles that they can have in society. A man can never take the role of a woman. For instance, when you have a divorce in Islam and the child is young, the child goes to the mother. A lot of men might say, okay, I want my children. Why they're not with me? It goes to the mother because the child at that time is in need of his mother. And when a man cannot offer the child what the woman can offer. Now, someone can come and make the argument, oh, why is she able to have the child? Then women are better than men. We don't say that. We say no. Also, when it comes to the relationship between the child generally and his parents. A man came to the Prophet Muhammad and asked him, who should I love and be good to the most after you? He said to him, your mother. He said, then who? He said, your mother. He said, then who? He said, your mother. He said, then who? He said, then your father. So he put the mother first 3 times. Because when it comes to that dynamic, that relationship between the mother and the father and the son, there is a role that the mother will play that the father cannot play. And there is a more responsibility towards her, taking care of the child, etc., this and that. So these rulings and commands and do's and don'ts are always based on that. And the Creator knows what is befitting of every scenario and situation.
Yeah. I suppose you said about there are exceptions, like you mentioned Song of Solomon about the female ruler. But it just because in the start of the verse it says never will succeed. And I suppose if it says never, then that's just, I suppose, what I'm trying to understand. Unless it's like never will succeed such a nation. Maybe if it's contextual and looking at a nation like that, I'm not sure. It's just the never part.
So that's not the Quran, by the way. It's the Hadith.
Okay.
But when it says, as I said, I told you scholars would have different ways to interpret the narration, but they would agree that a woman taking leadership is not permissible. So talking about whether the nation will be successful or not is different from saying, is it permissible for her to be or not? These are 2 separate things. So when it comes to be that no nation will be successful, the views of scholars, as I said, that the Prophet was specifically referring to that nation when it comes to the Persians, because it was contextualized with that. Some scholars, as I said, when we make a general rule, so that's hadith is given a general rule, and every rule has an exception. And people understand that there's an exception because they have the Quran, and the Quran mentions exceptions already. Mentions a female ruler and how this female ruler, Allah praised her for her good leadership. So that we understand from the Quran generally that there is an exception to the rule. And on top of that, some scholars will say even Bilqis, even that queen that is mentioned in the Quran, she wasn't successful with her own capacity. She relied on the people who were around her, the people who her ministers, her people who were advisors in her circle, her army, they're all men in the end. So the armies at that time were not composed of women and men. It was men who fought in wars. So some scholars will say, yes, even Balqis, you cannot say that she was successful as a leader, because the only reason success was there is because of the army. So these are different views to look at it. But the ruling of a woman becoming the leader, something that is agreed upon from the Muslims, that it is not permissible. Generally.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for answering. And then another question, I suppose. So why don't Muslims believe that Jesus, I suppose, well, I'm not sure died on the cross or not, but I suppose in Christianity died for the sins of people.
Are you Christian, if I may ask, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll have some questions for you if you'd allow me.
Oh no.
Just after. But yeah, when it comes to no, I was just curious about your opinion on certain things. But yes, when it comes to why do we not believe that Jesus died on the cross? Because the Quran, we have evidences, objective evidences that demonstrates that the Quran is from the Creator, is from God. So if God told us that Jesus did not die on the cross, then Allah knows more than anyone else who would say anything. The only source, by the way, for the death of Jesus on the cross is the Bible. And the Bible is not by eyewitness accounts. Whatever we have today is the earliest manuscript you have is written 400 years separate from Jesus. It's the Codex Sinaiticus. It's the earliest full Bible that you have. You have nothing from the first century. Barely anything from the first century that you can say. Late second century, there is like a card like this, P52. And it doesn't have any relevant information to do with the cross or divinity or anything like that. So when it comes to the death and resurrection, there isn't any eyewitness account for the person who says Jesus was crucified that they can present us as evidence that it happened. Now, historians generally will record that Jesus was crucified. Mm-hmm. Why? Because historians generally record that human beings died. They don't record miracles. Any historian, okay, there's a human was killed. Makes sense, of course. We, on the other hand, believe that he was raised up. Even the Christians believe in the ascension after. But this is a miracle that historians are not going to record. They don't believe in it. They will just record the human being died, and that was it. Because that's what historians generally record. Not only that, Allah tells us in the Quran that it was made to appear to the people as if Jesus was crucified. Not Allah made it appear, but it was made to appear. So something happened that made it appear to the people. So the people believed it then. People believed that Jesus was crucified. And you can say, what is the wisdom behind that? The clear wisdom behind that is that they're not going to look for him anymore. They're not going to chase him anymore, trying to kill him. And then after that, the ascension happened and Allah took him up. So we don't believe in the crucifixion. Simply, we would say there's no, anyways, historical evidence that can be presented from any side that this is a fact, because there is no eyewitness account. But other than that, we would say we would rely on the Quran as a source over anything else to tell us accurate history that it can never change, rather than relying on something that is already changed, referring to the Bible, or does not have any originals or accurate manuscripts. So that would be our position.
Yeah, because I know that you maybe believe that the Bible is corrupted, but I suppose then it comes down to how much of the Bible Muslims believe is corrupted, because there are prophecies about someone coming to die on, like in Isaiah and stuff. But I suppose it's hard to know how much of the Bible Muslims believe is corrupted. Like, how much do you disregard, kind of? I suppose you go back to the Quran and.
No. We don't need to ask even Muslims when it comes to the corruption of the Bible. We can just ask Christian scholars, textual criticism scholars, and they will tell you that the Bible is changed. Even when you use the term the Bible, which Bible do you refer to? Do you refer to the Protestant belief of 66 books only? Or do you add to them the books of the Catholics? Or do you add to them the books of the Orthodox as well? Or do you add to them the books of the Ethiopian Orthodox? What is the canon of your scripture? Is it 88 books, or is it 66, or is it 72, 73? What is the canon of the scripture? We have to first agree on which Christian version of the Bible that has how many amount of canon books. So that is the first question, which is already evidence that it's been changed, because this is not one thing that is called the Bible. Different Bibles will have extra text that other people will call apocrypha and not from God, while those others will believe it is from God. So that is already evidence, enough evidence of the corruption. Not only that, for example, which Bible do you read, if I may ask?
King James Version.
Excellent. So can you help me? Do you have it near you?
I have my laptop, but I don't have one in the room. But yeah.
Sure. So if you have something in front of you, can you just Google King James, 1 John 5:7?
Yeah.
First epistle of John, the letters of John, verse 1, and then chapter 5, verse 7.
Yeah, got it, yeah.
Can you read it for me?
Yeah, for there are three that bear record in heaven, the Father, the Word, and the Holy Ghost, and these three are one.
So you read this and you believe this is from God?
I'm
not sure. Do you believe in the Bible, or because you said you're Christian, so I'm not sure?
Yeah, I am a Christian, yes. I suppose I'm like, sometimes I find the Trinity
hard. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Let's put it that way. The Christians would believe in this as the word of God, generally.
Yeah.
Yeah, the people who read the King James Bible. I'm happy you're not sure about that. I like it. It's more, but I'll just say generally the Christians, they would believe this is from God. Now, just Google the same verse. You have it written, you're probably in the search result, but just put, instead of King James, put NIV.
Yeah. NIV?
Yes, New International Version. Or any other version that comes to your mind. RSV, NRV, anyone that you like.
Yeah, I'll choose NIV because it's popular as well.
Sure.
There are three that testify: the Spirit, the water, and the blood, and the three are in agreement.
Do you see the difference there?
Yeah, so I suppose there's groups of Christians that believe that the King James Version is more correct. So some wouldn't even touch the NIV.
Sure. Now let's talk about facts and not what some people believe.
Yeah.
The first, we've established that two Bibles are saying two different things.
Yes. Yeah.
One is mentioning a Trinity, and the other is mentioning something else that has nothing to do with it. Now, that's the first fact. So the first fact, when you talk about corruption of the Bible, I see the Bible itself is a representation. I'm giving you an example. I can give you many examples like this. You'll open the King James, you open other. I can even give you an example of full verses, like the end, the Mark, the long ending of Mark, the short ending of Mark, etc. That exists in the King James, doesn't exist in other books at all.
Yes. So, yeah.
So when we talk about corruption, Muslims don't really need to do anything. Like, it's not, we don't need to rely on the Quran. Anyone just can open the Bible and see the corruption.
Yeah.
So it's just an evident fact. Now, when it comes to the, you said sorry, you said something I wanted to comment on. What did you say? After we read the King James, the most accurate. Yes. So when you say the King James is the most accurate, talking about historical facts now, or we're talking about realities, King James was written in 1611 by the King James, who many people would say was a homosexual. That's a different story. Anyways, when the King James was written, after the Protestant movement, etc., of Martin Luther, etc., in the 1500s. You had the King James written. The King James did not rely on the most earliest manuscript. So we have manuscripts, whatever we have of the manuscripts. Some are the earliest, some came after, and some come way, way later. The King James does not rely on the most early manuscripts. How do you know that? You go to the RSV. So the Revised Standard Version is revising the KJV, and they say in their introduction that the King James has great defects, and then you have 50 scholars, 50 biblical scholars, Christian scholars, who then, because they say it doesn't rely on the earliest manuscripts, and here is RSV, which relies on the most early manuscripts. So the fact that the most early manuscripts does not have what 1 John 5:7 that you read, do you know where does this 1 John 5:7 come from?
I maybe heard that, did they kind of, I know some people maybe believe that it was put in there afterwards when they were putting the Bible together, kind of. That's some people's opinion.
No, that's a fact. That's a fact. The fact is, this verse, which is, there are three who bear record in heaven. I'm talking about this specific word.
Yeah.
Right? The wording. This wording does not exist in any other manuscripts before 15th century. Something called the Vulgate. So 1,500 years after Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
So someone added it.
Yeah.
Right? You had the Protestant movement happening and all of that. Then you had someone who said, like, let's add the Trinity. There is no Trinity in the Bible. Maybe try to get the Trinity or put it in the Bible. So when I say that's a fact, it's a fact because you cannot find any other manuscripts that are earlier that have it. So it's not now about opinions of people. Like, we're talking about experts now in the field. And manuscripts are objective facts. They're not opinions of someone. It's not that someone believes it was there, someone doesn't believe. The manuscript is there. It's a physical copy. You can look at it. None of the physical manuscripts have this verse before the 15th century.
Mm-hmm.
So that means what? It just shows that the Bible has been corrupted, has been changed. And you'll find that in the footnote, by the way. If you read the footnote of the NIV, they will tell you that. What I just told you of that verse that we were just reading.
I kind of have a follow-up question from that. So there are some Christian churches and stuff that don't believe in the Trinity. So I was wondering what your opinion on that is. So do you believe it's possible to be a Christian and not believe in the Trinity?
It's definitely possible. You have you'll be excommunicated by the majority, but it's possible. You have, of course, you can look at different people. Like, for example, Unitarian Christians. There is a group of people called Unitarian Christians who are Unitarian. They just believe in one God. They don't believe Jesus is God. They don't believe the Holy Spirit is God. But they still believe in the Bible. They're not necessarily Muslims. You have, of course, other groups in which they will excommunicate, like the Jehovah's Witnesses, who don't believe in the Trinity. So they will excommunicate them. But the question is, what is a Christian? Isn't a Christian someone who believes in the text? Shouldn't that be what a Christian is? Someone who follows Jesus, and the only information you have about Jesus is in the text. Christ follower is Christian. And the only information you have about him is in the text. Yeah,
I guess all the different versions and books and stuff, that's why you get all the different versions of Christianity. But it's like, which text, I suppose.
And God will never leave you in such confusion, which means that there is truth elsewhere, and perhaps you're looking in the wrong place. Because if truth was in that Bible that you're talking about, it wouldn't be confusing, and it would be only one. And it wouldn't be based on your understanding of whichever Bible you read and whichever manuscript you read. It will be one book, one Bible, and will have one idea, and it will not be corrupted or changed or manipulated by people, because then you wouldn't know what to trust.
Yeah.
So when you look, for example, let me ask you this question, because you said you don't believe in the Trinity, I think, do you?
One God makes the most sense.
Yes. You know, you should have no reason to believe in the Trinity anyways, because it's not in the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
There is no reason to believe it because it's not presented in the text. So if one God makes more sense to you, then my question is, what is your position on Prophet Muhammad then?
Is there anywhere that he's like, I know even if you believe that, even if say you believe that the Bible has been corrupted, like, is there any like indication of him coming mentioned in the Bible or anything?
Okay, you're asking me anyways, right? I usually don't present. Yeah, I usually don't present these things because it kind of gives validity to a scripture that has been changed. But there is, yes. Okay. So first I'll tell you this because now you're reminding me of something you said before. You said there are prophecies about Jesus coming in. There is no clear prophecies about Jesus in the Old Testament anywhere. Okay. It does not mention him by name properly, nor that mentions him by description properly. None. I'm talking about zero. When you talk about Isaiah, for example, Isaiah 53 is the best that you'd have Christians using.
Yes,
that doesn't work. The reason that doesn't work is because, first, how do the Jewish people generally understand it? Is they look at the verses, the chapters before and chapters after, and they all, when they say the servant that is described there, it refers to Israel as a nation. And the nation of Israel have bled, have been punished, have been, all of the things that the chapter mentions fits them. There's no issues about it. But what the chapter mentions, if you read verse 9 and 10 in Isaiah 53, it talks about living a long life, the life being prolonged and having multiple children, having offspring. Did Jesus live a long life and have offspring?
Some people could interpret that about the disciples and, everything.
No,
and
Zera, the word in Hebrew refers to seed specifically. It talks about children, progeny.
Maybe some people interpret that as like,
Okay, so let's agree. Let's agree. It's not, so let's agree.
Not physical, no.
So let's agree that, but still, you'd have the problem of prolonging his life. You cannot play. It's a game. You just try to twist the scripture to just say that this is about Jesus. But nowhere does it mention Jesus there. Just mention someone who will suffer and bruised. How many people suffer and bruised? Like millions of people throughout history. Nothing there indicates. Yeah.
What about in Isaiah 7? Behold, a virgin will be with child and bear a son, and she will call his name Emmanuel.
What's the problem? Now, let me ask you the first question I'm going to ask you.
About Jesus coming.
Can you show me? Let's accept this as about Jesus. If you accept this as a prophecy about the Messiah, then Jesus that you believe in is not the Messiah, because nobody has ever called him Emmanuel. His mother definitely never called him Emmanuel. Can you show me one time where he's called Emmanuel anywhere in the New Testament by anyone?
I'll look into that. But that's
the answer is no, by the way. The answer is no. So I think if someone takes that prophecy, he would be disqualifying Jesus from being a prophet. If you want to take that, by the way, that's why I told you the strongest is Isaiah 53.
Yeah.
If you go to Isaiah 9:6, which is another one they use, which, by the way, if you read the earliest manuscripts, it does not say he will be called Prince of Peace, Everlasting Father, etc. The earliest manuscripts do not mention any of that. But even if we were to accept that they say that, Jesus was never called Prince of Peace. He's definitely not called the Everlasting Father, because he isn't the Father. And it says that the government would be on his shoulder. He will rule. He was never in a position of power and ruled anyone. Then you'll have some Christians who come and say, that's in the second coming, but we can say that about anyone. I can say, I'm the Messiah. Oh, but you didn't fulfill the prophecy. When I come back, I'll fulfill it. Don't worry. I know this prophecy you're reading. When the second coming, I'm going to fulfill it. Anyone can say that.
I suppose some people would argue that he ruled the kingdom of God on earth, like, spread Christianity. People would take that stance. Kingdom of God.
No. It talks about the government of David specifically in Isaiah 9. It talks about the rulership of David, throne of David, him sitting on the throne of David, him ruling as David ruled. Doesn't talk about any hypothetical thing there. So they believe that the Messiah will be ruling. And he'll bring peace on earth. That's why the Jewish people generally rejected him. Because they say, okay, look, he doesn't fit. And the Jewish people of today will say, oh, look, he doesn't fit the Messiah in the description there. Now, if we were all of these vague prophecies are there that don't fit Jesus, but Christians still believe that they're about Jesus. Now, when it comes to Prophet Muhammad, there's an explicit, clear-cut as the Son prophecy in Isaiah, but they still wouldn't accept it. So Isaiah 42 specifically, do you want to pull it up and read it?
Yeah.
I don't know if you can bring the Hebrew or not. It would be better.
Yeah, 42 verse.
The whole chapter, actually.
Oh, okay.
Isaiah 42. We can read it from the beginning. We can look at the Hebrew. You have it in front of you?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay, so it says here, you can read, and then I'll highlight the important points.
Yes, yeah. Here is my servant whom I uphold, my chosen one, in whom I delight. I will put my spirit on him, and he will bring justice to the nations. He will not shout or cry out.
So that's a bad translation. What are you reading?
I'm actually reading the NIV. Oh dear.
Yeah. So that's not an accurate translation. Why? For instance, what it says that he will bring forth justice to the Gentiles. It mentions Goyim. I'm sure you heard the name Goyim before. Goyim referring to the Gentiles.
So the Gentiles.
Goyim, which is kind of an insult, by the way, if you're a non-Jew. But this is what the chapter mentions. When it says he will bring forth justice to the Gentiles. And that's very important. Do you know why this is mistranslated? Because Jesus said he was not coming to the Gentiles. He was not sent to the Gentiles.
No. Yeah.
He
He
was
was
only
sent
sent
to
to the
the
lost sheep
people
of
of
the house of
Israel.
Israel.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, if you read Matthew 15:24, he explicitly said, "I was only sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." That's why some
Exactly.
people will change this, because this is not about Jesus. It cannot be about Jesus. It's about someone who's coming to the Gentiles specific. Let's continue reading.
Okay. Which verse was I on?
Or I'll read
Abraham?
to make it easier on you, because I have the Hebrew
Yeah.
here as well.
Okay.
He will not cry out or raise his voice. We already know that Jesus cried out, right, on the cross, allegedly, according to Christians. So this cannot be about him for sure. Then it says, a bruise not he will break. So he's not going to be suffering injuries. And then he will bring forth justice. He will not fail, meaning in his mission he will not fail. He will accomplish his mission. Then it says that the coastlands await for his law. And by the way, the word for law there is Torah. So he's bringing another Torah now.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay? He's bringing a new law to the coastlands, specifically the Gentiles. And we know Jesus did not bring a new Torah to the Gentiles. Now it talks about God. Does God says, Yahweh who created the heavens and the earth, this and that. It just talks about God. I will keep you. I'll give you this. I'll do that. All of that is just talk about God. And then it says how he's going to bring out people from the darkness into light. Okay, to open the eyes of the blind people. The people who worship craved images. So it talks about what? Idol worshippers. So this man is going to come to idol worshippers. And he's going to take Gentiles idol worshippers as well.
Yeah.
So specifically, he's going to go to idol worshippers. Those idol worshippers will worship images, and he will take them out of darkness into light. Now, former things have happened. Now new things will come. So he's talking about, this is a prophecy now. New things are coming in the future. And then it says, sing to Yahweh a new song. So there's a new praise, a new song that is going to come. Now, a lot of people can talk about the Quran as melodic way of recitation, etc. So here it says the way the coastlands and the people are waiting for this new song, this new law, this man that is going to come to them, that is going to take them out of darkness into light. And then it says, let the villages of Kedar, or that Kedar inhabits, sing. Do you know who Kedar is?
No.
Kedar is the Arabs. They are the children of Ishmael, according to Genesis 25:13. Genesis 25:13 will talk about the genealogy of Ishmael, and then it mentions the second son of Ishmael, etc., Nabaioth, and then it mentions Kedar. So Kedar is the Arabs specifically. So this person, and then it mentions Mountain Sela, let the inhabitants of Sela. Do you know where Mountain Sela is? If you Google now Mountain Sela, it will show you Saudi Arabia, Medina specifically.
Okay.
So we have a prophet who's going to bring a new Torah, a new law. He's going to come to the Gentiles. He's going to go to the Arabs, to Medina, Saudi Arabia specifically, people who inhabit the mountains around Sela. Then God, or the Bible says, if you go to move on the next few verses, it talks about 13. How that person will be like a mighty warrior, like a mighty man, like a man of war. He shall stir up his zeal. Was Jesus? Obviously, that's not about Jesus. So he's talking about a man who will fight his enemies. Who you shout aloud against his enemies, he shall prevail. So he's going to fight against his enemies, and he's going to win, whoever that person is.
Yeah.
And then, okay, let's move on. Mountains, the vegetation, coastlands, I will dry up. God is just saying about what he's going to do, etc. I will lead them. I will make them, take them out of darkness into light again. Make the crooked path straight. Then, okay, here. They shall be turned back. They shall be greatly ashamed. Those who trust in graven images. Those who say to molded images, you are our gods. So again, another emphasis that this prophet, this person prophesies, is going to go to idol worshippers who hold, praise idols and worship idols and follow them, and he's going to fight them and he's going to defeat them.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a message here to the Christians, or to the people who don't believe in him. Just not say Christians. It says, "You deaf, hear; you not. You don't hear, or you deaf, or you blind, you don't see." And then it says, "My servant, my messenger, whom I send." Now, can it be more clear than this? That there is a prophet, a messenger, that is going to bring a new Torah, a new law. He's going to go to the Arabs, and is going to go specifically Sela, where it has a mountain in Medina. He will fight those people who worship graven images and will defeat them. Who did that in history?
Are you going to say is the answer Muhammad?
No, I'm asking you. Like,
Okay.
if you don't want to say Prophet Muhammad, there isn't nobody else that fits that description in history. Jesus never went there and did any of that, and he was not sent to the Gentiles anyways.
That's interesting about the
Sure. Go ahead. What's interesting?
Yeah, no, that's interesting about because I suppose the new law part kind of like, well, the Jews were following like the law of Moses and stuff, and Jesus came and kind of showed there's a new law and stuff. But that is interesting what you said about Kedar and Arabia and stuff. So that's interesting.
Let's take things step by step. If you wanna apply this to Jesus, you gotta be honest. First, it says that he's gonna go to the Gentiles. Does that fit Jesus, or is it exactly the opposite of what Jesus says?
Well, Jesus was sent, to the lost sheep of Israel, but then they rejected the message, so it went to the Gentiles.
But he said, I was sent to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Even when he sent his 12 disciples in Matthew, he said, go to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. Do not go specifically to the lost sheep of the house of Israel.
Yes.
Now, so Jesus' mission, who is he sent to? Because here it's talking about someone sent specifically to the Gentiles. Jesus is specifically saying, I was not sent. It's not talking about side missions. It's talking about the main mission.
Okay,
he is sent specifically to the Gentiles. Okay. Second thing is, it says he's going to bring a new Torah. Jesus said in Matthew, "I've not come to destroy the law of the prophets. I've come to fulfill." And then he says, "Until heavens and earth pass, no tittle or dot from the law will be removed." So he's following the same law. He did not bring a new Torah for sure. He followed the same law. When it comes to coming to idol worshippers, did Jesus go out and talk to idol worshippers and fight against them in war like a mighty man, stirring up his zeal? Did he do any of that?
No, it wasn't war. No.
Did he go to Kedar, the Arabs, and Saudi Arabia, Medina?
No.
It's impossible for you to fit this as a description of Jesus. You can't, because he never went to that region and he never fought idol worshippers in war and defeated them. That's certainly not about him.
Okay. No, I appreciate you bringing that up about Kedar and stuff.
But you remember, I don't even use that as evidence. But you said to me, do you have any like something you can present? I'm showing you how clear it is in the Bible, but still you'll have Christians rejecting. And I hope you were not going to be one of those people, So you can do the research and see if you want. But about specifically, because I asked you before, I'm not sure what answer you gave me specifically about Prophet Muhammad. When I said to you, what do you think about Prophet Muhammad? You asked about his description. So if what I told you is true, and by the way, I was just reading the verses for you, then what would stop you from accepting Prophet Muhammad as a messenger of God?
Unless it was like, well, you see, I suppose it kind of goes to think, well, if it was clear enough anyway, but then I suppose that you said that the Bible is corrupted anyway, so I guess I can see kind of your point of view why you wouldn't use it as a point to look from, but
and why you would need a clear guidance from God, and it cannot be the Bible. So that also supports the idea that Prophet Muhammad is a messenger who told you that the Bible has been changed. The Quran mentions that, and told you that God is one and not three, and that people have changed these things. So that will just fit that narrative even more.
Yeah, I'll look in. That's very interesting. I'll definitely look into that and go through Isaiah 42 as well. But I do understand there's a lot of confusion.
I'll let you process the information. Now, I had just a very quick question for you before I let you go, unless you have any more questions as well. You asked about a few questions about women in Islam, and we talked about them. Now, are you familiar with what the Bible says about women? What is your position on that?
I know that. Well, some people bring up about where Paul tells women to cover their heads in churches and stuff. People often bring that up, but that people say that that's contextual at the time. Like it's not. No, it was at that time, and they have explanations for that. But it depends what passage you're referring to exactly.
I'm referring to things which are not necessarily that pleasant. Are you aware of any?
Which one?
I just want to know what you know before I
Okay.
So what are you familiar with?
Yeah, well, there's one about women being silent in churches and stuff, and I don't like, or praying or something.
Sure. So let's read some text, and then I would like you to tell me what you think about that, because I'm very curious about that. First, do you know that a woman cannot divorce in Christianity, which is a predominant position if you want to take it as a majority of Christians, if you want to look at the Catholics, etc., or the Orthodox, or generally many even Protestants, because if you can take that from the Bible. So that woman cannot divorce. The only cause of divorce is adultery, nothing else. Woman cannot divorce except for adultery. Meaning, if the husband is abusive or doing anything to her, she cannot divorce. That's not a cause for divorce. The Bible only, Jesus, according to Christians, we don't believe that, but he's only allowed divorce for adultery.
Okay.
Are you aware of that?
I kind of thought,
I'll read for you the verse if you want.
Yeah. I'll look into it.
You've not heard about that?
No, I didn't actually know. Because I know
it's in Matthew,
adultery,
it's in Matthew 19. In Matthew 19, verse 9, it says, "I tell you, to anyone who divorces his wife, except for sexual immorality, and marries another woman, commits adultery." The situation of divorce in Christianity can only happen if adultery happens. If adultery doesn't happen, you cannot have divorce in Christianity. And the Bible also says that whoever marries a divorced woman has committed adultery.
Yes. Yeah, I know that part.
Which means if your husband cheated and committed adultery, and then you got divorced, you cannot marry again. Because whoever marries you is marrying an adulterous woman. He's committing adultery. So if your husband was abusive, you cannot get divorced from him. And if he committed adultery and you were lucky enough to be separated, then you will remain alone for the rest of your life because you ended up marrying a cheater. This is nothing like this in Islam, obviously. A woman doesn't need adultery in order for her to get divorced from a man. Nor is a woman who's a divorcee in Islam a committer of adultery if you marry her. Anyone can marry her, no issues. In fact, the Prophet, all his wives except one were divorcees and widows. The women that he married, they were older women, divorcees and widows, all of them. So this is when, go ahead.
I suppose, ideally, no Christian should be abusing nobody should be abusing anyone. So in a perfect Christian marriage, it shouldn't happen. But yeah, I see what you mean. If people were following the law, non-Christians,
But according to Christians, Jesus is saying anyone who divorces his wife in Matthew 5:32, that anyone who divorces his wife except for sexual immorality makes her a victim of adultery. And anyone who marries a divorced woman commits adultery. So he's just telling you that this woman will have to live in that suffering relationship. And Islam, God is a merciful God. He will not put women in this situation. You will have to be either the abuser living the rest of your life. You cannot be separated. And if he was a cheater, then you end up living alone for the rest of your life. That's something that makes zero sense. Now, let's read a few more verses. Like you mentioned, for example, about the cover of the head. It doesn't mention the church specifically in Corinthians 11:6. It says, "For not if a woman does not cover her hair." It just talks about how shameful it is for a woman to show her hair. And because it's shameful also for a woman to not have hair, then that woman should cover her hair. It doesn't specifically say the church. If you would like to read Corinthians 11 later, you can.
Yeah.
So that is just something that the Christians try to say, but that's not the case. That's why when you go to churches, why is Mary covered? That was historically the case. Always, women were covered. Christian women were covered till sexual revolution and liberalism and feminism, etc. That was always the case. Christian women were covered. Now, let me read the last thing and then get your opinion on that. There's many more things the Bible says, but I don't want to dig up. And the reason I do that is because for me, it's very difficult for anyone to look at Islam as something, as a religion that treats women badly or this or that, and be Christian in the same time. For me, that would be my because Islam treats women in the most honorable and respectful way, and everything has an explanation and understanding if you were to ask. But then when you read the Bible, you realize how can you believe in any of that and have issues with anything. So if you read, for example, the Bible, let's go to 1 Timothy chapter 2. Okay, from verse 11 we can read. It says, "A woman should learn in quietness and full submission." Okay, the woman should learn in quietness and full submission. "I do not permit a woman to teach or assume authority over a man. She must be quiet. For Adam was formed first, then Eve. And Adam was not the one who was deceived. It was the woman who was deceived and became a sinner."
Yes.
So the woman should be submissive. She should not talk. She should learn in submissiveness and quietness. She should not talk. We don't have that in Islam. And he doesn't permit a woman to teach as well. He says, "I do not permit a woman to teach." Have women teach in Islam. I don't have any issues with that. Then it says, "But women will be saved through childbearing." So they are a sinner and they were deceived by the serpent, but the punishment that is going to save them is childbearing, the pain that you have when you bear a child.
I've also
they
heard
continue-
yeah.
Yeah. Sure.
I've heard the interpretation
Go
from
ahead.
that sometimes that some people say that, well, say from like in childbirth, like Jesus, you know, he came and that's kind of like Mary had him childbirth, and
It can't be, because
Yeah.
in the end of the verse is if they continue in faith and prosperity. So it talks about general women. Plus, the whole thing is talking about generally women. I don't permit women to speak and to teach. So is that about Mary? He's saying that was after Mary, actually. Anyways,
yeah, it's
I'll be
after
referring
Mary,
to
yeah.
Mary, not to speak. That would be such a very, very like stretched, like far-fetched,
Yeah.
you know, it cannot make
Yeah.
any sense, not fit the text. So the thing is this, it's impossible for someone to read this text and say like, you know, woman empowerment and I want to be a Christian woman
Yeah.
and follow the Christian teaching.
Yes,
So do you
yeah.
have any questions? I just wanted to present the highlight for you, because we spoke about Islam. I explained to you the
Yes.
questions that you had there. So I wanted to show you the opposite direction, how it is actually in Christianity. Do you have any other
Yes, yeah.
questions for me?
Any other questions? I think just I suppose kind of on is it true that in Islam they believe that God chooses who believes and who doesn't believe and stuff, and kind of how is that fair? Is that true that
No,
I'm not sure.
if you mean does Allah choose who's going to be a believer, and then okay, you're a believer, you're a disbeliever, you go to paradise, you go to hellfire, and then the individual like just, you know, he ended up being a believer, disbeliever because God chose that and he has no choice
Yeah.
in his life. We don't believe in that. No.
Okay.
We
okay.
believe, we believe that the human beings have a choice to do with the things that, to do with their
Yeah.
salvation. Like they choose to
Okay.
either obey or disobey, and paradise, etc. We do. That's what we believe.
Okay, that's good to know. No, that was my last question there. You know. No, thank you. I appreciate. Yeah,
No
I really
issues.
appreciate going through and answering the
No
questions.
problem. I'll let you do your research and kind of, you know, investigate what we said. And I
Yes,
hope, like, if
yeah.
you got any questions in the future, you're welcome to come back. You're obviously always welcome to be a Muslim as well. That door is always open. And the message of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was for everyone. You know, Jewish or not Jewish, the message was for everyone. And it's open for everyone to worship one God alone, as you believe, and not to associate any partners with him, and to worship that creator and follow the messengers that he sent. All of them, not just some of them, and leave others. All right, Jessica, it was nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Lovely talking to you. Take care. Have a nice evening.
Bye-bye.
يا دعاة رب السماء يا من صنعتم في الأرض نورا يا قلوبا فيها الوفاء بشركم اليوم السرورا